Hello, James.
What's going on?
We were discussing yesterday whether or not you're a nerd.
And today, too, actually, we talked about it.
Yeah, we brought up earlier.
In a positive light.
It depends on how you define nerd, but I would say yes. I mean, I don't shy away from that word. I mean, am I a movie nerd? Movies, I love movies, but I don't go as much anymore because I just don't have the time.
Well, they're not as good, are they?
Well, no, it's woke and you got to do this and that. Like instead of just watching movies, you're like, there's always a, backstory to it. Stats. I'm becoming a bit of a stats nerd. I'm a junkie. Like when it comes to like studying stocks and, business and stuff, I'm a big nerd when it comes to researching companies and stuff like that. So I would say, yes, I am a bit.
Are you any good at that part?
Stocks?
Yeah.
Stuff? Yeah. I mean,
look at his house.
Stonks. He's good at the stonks.
Look at his house.
I told you guys this last week when you were berating me. I said the Calgary Flames paid for this house.
Oh, that's nice. Huh?
Now, there were two guys berating you. One was trying to have your back and defend you a little bit.
Listen, it's all. And one of the clips I think went viral. I was getting phone calls.
You had a massive. Yeah. Hey, Jack.
You got 40,000 views on that one.
Like I don't even know what. How when you like, it's funny when you talk on shows like our show and your show and all of this. Like my wife will go, "How was the show?" I'm like, "I don't know.
We did it."
I think we had a good show. Like you don't remember, when you talk so much, you don't remember what you say. You remember like you'll have a little spat here, you have an argument here, and you're like, okay, that was good. Like let's move on, type of thing. And then all of a sudden you're getting phone calls going, why you and Rhett got heated? I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I don't even remember that. I go, and then I think it was like a Wallman clip or something like that. And then, anyways, it was my buddies from Edmonton were calling, going, Rhett was really worked up about Wallman. I said, it's his opinion. I said, that's what you're allowed to do. I said, that's what we do.
Yeah.
We talk about when you sit in front of a camera and talk and talk and talk.
Yeah.
You're bound to have disagreements, but you're allowed to voice your opinion. That's why it's called your opinion. It's you're like, I never judge people for their opinions. So
I was at lacrosse last night and the coach comes up. He goes, why are you shit talking lacrosse? I'm like, I don't ever remember saying the words.
Like I have this clip that I think like birthdays for adults are for lunatics. Like, because I have a friend who's like brother who's like 35 who still puts in a list with his family. This is what I want for my birthday. I'm like, you're a grown-ass man with kids. Who creates a list for their birthday presents? You know what you get? You get a bottle of booze, you get a gift card from Amazon or something, and that's it. You maybe get a cake, an acknowledgement that it's your birthday. Like, I think birthdays are more for kids and stuff. So I have this like comment on our show. It's like, birthdays for adults or for lunatics. And like, so I get people send me notes all the time going, you're an ass for saying that. I'm like, well, no, I'm not an ass. Like,
So you're a lunatic. Yeah. It's like you can tell the lunatics because they're the ones upset with you.
So anyways, so it comes back to, the going viral for making a comment you don't remember.
The movie Heat.
Yeah.
Jack has never seen it.
Oh.
Yes.
One of the best fight scenes of all time.
Oh, it's like 40 minutes or something.
That gunfight.
I thought it was like timed at it's probably like 25, 30, 40 minutes.
It's incredible.
That fight scene at the end is like one of the greatest fight scenes of all movie time. Like Val Kilmer, when you look at who was in it, like Tom
Sizemore is the guy I was thinking of. He's great in it. You got Pacino, De Niro, Kilmer.
Yeah,
and Ashley Judd, yeah.
It's just it's kind of the who's who of like in that era of like, we'll call them tough guys because they came from the gangster movies into like that. Like I loved Heat. It's
also Pacino at his overacting best.
Yeah.
You can get killed walking your doggy. She got a great ass. He's just yelling all the time.
Well, there's a clip. Do you remember the Devil's? Is it
Advocate? The Devil's Advocate.
When he's on the train and that guy's going to shiv him with the knife. And he's like, why don't you stick that knife where it belongs? Because Hector is at home with your wife. And like, and it is like, it is and he goes, I love it here. Like it's an unbelievable, I'm not going to say what he says, but you go back on that clip alone and it is vintage Pacino.
Yeah. You watch him as Corleone, he kind of talks, he kind of soft spoken, and then it's what was it, Sea of Love, where he's the blind guy. It's like, hoo-ah.
Yeah, hoo-ah. Yeah,
the Oscar for that. So I got to make some noises. Hoo-ah. So then from there on, he was just yelling and screaming.
Yeah. No, I love the old school movies. The newer ones, not so much. Like, I'll be honest, I just don't. I don't. Maybe it's because I'm older, but I don't identify with them as. I don't love them that much. I love the Jason Bourne movies. I love I've been a match.
Possible?
Yeah, I like the Mission, but I haven't seen the newest one because it's 4 hours long. How long is it?
The first one I really liked. I haven't gone to the.
So you're saying the 30th one? Who's seen that one? That's a good one.
That's the one that's out now.
Okay, yeah. Because there's a billion of them. That's the thing now. We just do sequels and there's no original ideas anymore.
I do respect that Tom Cruise does his own stunts, which is kind of cool.
Has he mentioned that? That's odd.
Yeah. Yeah, he does talk about it.
Oh, really? Tom, do you? We haven't heard that. Holy.
Yeah, I know. But Tom is a wacko on the best of days. Remember he was like jumping on Oprah's couch and stuff. Yeah. He's a weird dude.
You know what? I loved Top Gun. And then the second one came out and he was convincing and good in it. It's like he looked all right. He was in good shape. And it's like, there's the motorbike and there's the leather jacket and there's it took me back to my youth. So I appreciate, I will let Tom
Jennifer
Cruise.
Connelly.
No, there's some talent in there, but I just now I get frustrated where it's like, okay, every movie has to have a certain look or a certain feel or a certain theme behind it. Like I just want to sit and lose my mind for 2 hours and forget about life. I don't need any underlying messages or,
How many matinee movies have you been to in your life?
Oh my God.
Thousands.
Yeah, we used to think
thousands, because my first 10 years at TSN, when we're going into studio, there's a movie theater across the street. So if I'm doing overdrive at 4:00, I'd go to a 1:30 movie, 1:30 to 3:30, go over to the studio. So I would go, and there was times where I booked the movie around the time that it started. They're like, yeah, this is going to be a crappy movie, and I'm only going to watch 90 minutes of it, but there's popcorn there, and I leave halfway through, and I go, they're like, how's the movie? I'm like, I don't know how it ended, but it was all right. I've done that hundreds of times.
Just
Remember when that asshat Monty we had the cards to go to the movie theater? We'd go with Kami, and Kami, you get the popcorn, we'll pay for the tickets.
But I've always felt that the movies, now the traditional movie, everybody watches movies on their phone, including me. So it's, I feel like it's still, we do this. I don't know if you guys have ever done it. Like we do it with the kids in the summer. We do a drive-in. We'll go to the drive-in and do a double header. I think it's a night as a family type of thing. But I take my son to movies on the weekend. Like he doesn't mind it. He loves.
I love going to a movie, but the only issue is that they're not as good as everyone says. And it's probably because they're producing so many. Every streaming service has a.
You're right. It's trying to catch up. I'm more into series now and stuff like that. But in the end, like I do like a movie. I do. Like I'll go sit through it. But when's the last Heater movie that came out, like a Heat or something like that, where it's like, man, it's
what was that show that Napoleon? They totally screwed that up, right? Like that should have been a good movie.
Napoleon Dynamite was good though. Watch that.
Yes, of course. Uncle Rico's my favorite.
Vote for Pedro.
No, but that scene where Uncle Rico throws the steak and hits him in the face, like that stuff is just. And
I've been online chatting with babes all day.
Yeah, but Uncle Rico's like, I could throw this football over that mountain. Like he's dead serious too. Like there are people. Steve Montador was Uncle Rico.
His Uncle Rico. He believed it.
He believed it. He believed he could do anything, which is, I miss that guy, but it's funny. Like that type of stuff I love. So what's going on? What do we got here? What do we
Well, we were calling the Vancouver Canucks stupid before you got here.
Mm-hmm.
Why they would take Evander Kane and give up a fourth and take all the. They should be getting a pick to take all the money and Kane. It's a huge coup for the Oilers.
I don't understand. Well, it's a big win for them, but apparently at just, reading our insiders writing or whatever, saying that there was apparently 2 or 3 teams that Kane had said he would go to, and all 3 of them were kind of like in on it.
That's what I would tell Vancouver too. That's perfect.
Yeah. Fair enough. I don't understand. So I would say this. What is Vancouver's plan? That's the first and foremost, because they're probably trying to sell to the defensemen. We're competitive because you're not, you're a year away from potentially extending him and deciding his future in Vancouver, right? So these second best defenseman on the planet, arguably. I think, like I'm a Makar,
top 5, maybe number 1.
I'm a Makar guy, but I mean, yes. I if Hughes is in 1A or 2, then it's a challenge. But they've got big decisions to make. Like I half-heartedly joke. I did a SportsCenter hit, and I said, could Demko not have been in that deal? Like, they got 3 goalies, right? So Sheloff just won in the AHL. He needs waivers. He's not going to make it through waivers. I think he's a pretty good goaltender that has a chance to be an everyday guy. I don't know if he's a Vladar or better type of thing, because he's a big goaltender, nice butterfly, good skills. We saw it in the playoffs against Edmonton. I thought he handled the moment pretty well at 22, 23 years old.
Played his way out of the league this year, though. Like, he played his way down to Abbotsford. He was not good.
Yeah. No, yeah, you're right. You're right. He didn't. But I could also say that, that team wasn't that team wasn't the team that we saw the year before. So, Hronek, like, there were guys
down, and then he also won a frickin'
he was great when he was down.
But I would say I'll take a chance on a 24-year-old goaltender that has the skill set. Maybe the team could play better in front of him. So they got his side. You've got Demko at $5 million. You've got Lankinen starting a 4 or 5 year extension at 4.5, something like that.
Yep. And
then you're going to have Sheloff. So that's where I start with Vancouver. What are you doing in net? Because you're going to lose one goaltender if they put him on waivers. And, are you making a decision on Demko extending him, or are you going to move him? Because you're not moving Lankinen, you just extended him. So it's really Demko or Sheloff's. That's the way I look at it.
He's a year that's coming summer, like a year from now. And the hope would be you could get him right and get a king's ransom for him. Like, I understand you probably don't want to give a divisional rival a ton of cap space, but what you really don't want is a guy to turn into a top 10 goalie in the league like he was before his injuries in division. That's the big no-no for me.
Yeah, but he could sign there in a year potentially. Like, it's one more year.
Right, but Edmonton doesn't. I don't think you're sitting as Stan Bowman sitting at McDavid's cottage right now going, we're going to wait another year to see if this guy's available. Like, I think, you're selling to him, I'm going to get a goaltender right now. And, I don't know what it looks like, but it's going to be different. And that's what I keep preaching, and maybe that's the wrong word, but it's got to look different in net there. And I don't think it's somebody to challenge Skinner. I think what you do is you got a Pickard who makes $850 or whatever it is, we'll call it $1 million, who won 22 games for them last year and was 7-1 in the playoffs for them. That's a good number 2. I think what you do is you look laterally. So I coming back to Vancouver, they got to do something with their goaltender. And you're right, it is a bit weird that they take Evander Kane and give up a 4th. So they basically got him for free. And does Kane make you a better team? Yes, but there's lots of baggage that comes with that, right? So, and they're already coming off a very dysfunctional dressing room last year.
They should be hypersensitive to the room.
Hypersensitive. There should be no one going in that room.
Like, JT Miller has to go.
Right.
This environment's just not healthy. Come on in, Evander Kane, who played his way out of Winnipeg, Buffalo, San Jose, and potentially even Edmonton. Come on in.
Yeah, like that is.
Well, it's also in division, and yet you've handed the Oilers. I mean, if there were other teams involved, it sounds like you were going to move Kane anyway, but it feels like you've.
Well,
you're going to take Kane, then okay, then you want the player. Don't take all the money. Or
I think what you're wanting is a 30 goal scorer that is a unique. Like, let's do this. Let's remove the baggage and the off-ice stuff. If Evander Kane is able to give you 25 goals and 60 points, 55 points, and be a bit of a unicorn, which when he's at his best, there's rare guys in the league, right? Brady Tkachuk, Tom Wilson, guys like that who can skate, fight, do it all. That's Evander Kane. Now he's 35, is he?
33.
33. Seems like he's 35. He's got
So
some
just
mileage.
wave your hands at the baggage, though. Like
34 in August.
I'm not waving.
No.
That's what I'm saying. I'm just
They
saying.
literally just blew up their team over that, right? Like JT Miller, they couldn't do
Right.
that.
And I'm saying you take the package like of the player. They're better on paper today than they were yesterday, but it also is, like you just said, Pinder, you just brought another powder keg into your room where it's like, okay, now I always want to give people the benefit of the doubt. As you grow older, you grow a little bit wiser, you maybe calm down a little bit, that type of, like Evander Kane, there was times in the playoffs where I thought he was a difference maker, but in a positive way. And then in the finals, I thought he was a difference maker in a negative way because he was checking with a stick around his head. And he got four minors. And he wasn't the threat that we saw him getting underneath the skin of Matthew Tkachuk in Calgary. He wasn't the threat that we saw him, against Dallas or LA or Vegas. Like I think it was time for him to go. I think they're not done. I think they're going to move Arvidsson and his $4 million. So they're going to rectify some of their mistakes, and they better have a good summer. If when you got a guy that is sitting there, like you said, Judd is controlling with McDavid what they're going to do for term and money. So the big decisions to be made in Edmonton, and I look at it in Calgary, not as much, but I think Rasmus Andersson is a massive. I think he's a massive chip. I don't know how you guys feel, but I think
100%.
he'd be one of the most coveted players right now, I would think.
Especially if Ekblad stays in Florida somehow. Now, maybe he doesn't, but the market for right-hand D is very thin, and he's a guy making half of almost half of his worth.
I was going to say to you, Ekblad's going to come probably something with an 8 in it-ish, 9. I don't know. What is Ekblad going to get? Higher than? Okay, so 9. Let's call it 9.
The open market.
Unless he stays in
The
Florida.
open market. So Andersson at what? 4.8?
4.5.
4.55.
That's that. What did I just say? The most coveted. I think, Connie's in a real strength or position of strength if he wants to move that player and decides to. And I don't know what the plan is, but if he's not going to sign long term with Calgary, you got to go and try and get a king's ransom for him.
You said you don't know what the plan is. We've talked a lot about that.
It feels like to me, Rasmus Andersson would stay in Calgary, but as opposed to taking a hometown discount, it's a no. You want me to
tax? What do you call it? The Alberta tax or the Calgary tax?
Calgary tax, the Edmonton tax, the Winnipeg tax, the Ottawa tax. Yeah. Yes, I think if you look at it, some of his buddies are gone off the team, though, right? Markstrom, Lindholm, who else? Who's the other Swedish meatballs?
I think he was tight with those other guys too, though, like the Kajuks and Bennett's and that whole crew.
Is this not just about how competitive your team is? Like if they're a playoff team, I think he's happy to re-up, and it makes sense. But they're clearly, a team that could be really, really bad next year if they don't get as many saves. And he's like, look at my age. This is my one chance at UFA, and I can go pick a competitive team.
He's been playing for cheap for what he does for us.
So then let's separate the two. The money and the term. What's it going to look like for him financially if he goes to UFA status?
In a year, I'd say 8.5 times 7 minimum.
Right. So something with an 8 in it, maybe a great year, maybe more. You create a marketplace. So you're putting $60 million. That's pretty much. No, I'm not doing the numbers well.
65.
No, what am I? 8 times 7.
70 million, 65 to 70 million bucks.
60 plus million. Calgary would probably pay that to have him stay, but
it depends on what you're getting in the. That's the problem. Is that we can keep him and we can sign him to whatever the hell we want. We've got cap space and he can play.
I'm not so sure they would at that number.
But I know.
You don't think so?
But the equation has to include what are we being offered for him? Oh, 2 first rounders? Mm-hmm. right? Like that's part of it. If it's a fourth, like they got for Kane, well, no, yeah, we'll keep him.
Okay, but do you want draft currency or do you want young player currency?
I think they're so. This is what we've debate about all the time.
What is it?
I don't know. I'm sure Craig has an idea, but I can't figure out what their plan is. Or they're calling it a soft rebuild, which is a bunch of bullshit. And it's one like you're going to have to make moves one way or the other. Well, it is because
I just laugh.
We'll watch those top teams, and you need a Barkov. And Barkov's not a 100-point guy, but Barkov shuts down 100-point guys. Right. Oilers are in the final because they've got 100-point guys. We don't have either.
Right.
And you can be competitive and stay middle of the road. And our position, and this does not have to be Mr. Edwards or Connery's position, our position is I want a 10-year window where the Calgary Flames are front runners as far as competing for a Stanley Cup. It's not make the playoffs, maybe. It's not in 1 year and then miss for 2 and then in for 2 and out for 1. So it's a 10-year window of good, solid, we have a chance to win.
Okay, so how do you do that with Kadri, Backlund, Coleman?
You don't.
You trade them.
You trade their asses is what I've been saying all along.
Right.
Although I did tell you that it dawned on me, but they should have got a scorer last.
I got yelled at for saying they have to trade Andersson in January. We've come around.
Well, that's fair. But at that point,
I think Andersson is less of the issue. Sorry for interrupting you there. Like I can see a signing of Andersson because I think he's still capable in 5 years. And I don't think even at 8 or 8.5 in 6 years that he's going to drop off so drastically that he can't play. Maybe I'm wrong, but.
Well, the cap will be a lot higher in 5 years or whatever too, right? So $8 million is not going to be as huge of a dent if there's some erosion. But I think the biggest thing is you come back to the word plan. Okay, so last year the goalie stands on his head, and what a 96-point team that still misses the playoffs, which is crazy.
Tiebreaker.
That it is still 96.
It's a record, right?
It is the record, I believe, right?
Like 3 times ever, 96 hasn't gotten in. It's wild. Yeah.
So I guess you look at it. Can Wolf have growth, or is you're hoping that he replicates? That's the biggest thing. If he gives some replication, then the team is going to be a 90-plus point team again, just because the goalie gives you a chance. Who had down years last year? Who can maybe? Is there internal growth that you would be banking on?
Yeah, Sharangovich was terrible. Zary was hurt a lot.
Coronado
should be better. The issue becomes then that Kadri was really good. Is he going to continue on that at 34, 35 or whatever it is? Backlund, we don't rely on him for points, but he has to be impactful. He's getting old.
Yeah,
he is aging. Frost never put up numbers that. Farabee never put up numbers like there. Yeah, there's room for growth, but it's the same. I say it all the time at training camp. Oh, we got all these young guys. God, they're good. These guys look pretty good. Hey, don't they look good? No. You have to compare them against the rest of the league.
Yeah.
It's because the rest of the league's trying to get better too.
I get it, but young guys have to be part of the equation if you're going to grow the program. And so if Andersson can fetch you a high draft pick and a really good prospect, like not prospect, live player, younger, like Connie tried to do it last year, Farabee, Frost, you get that mid-20s player that can fit in with the young guys. And that has to be, if Andersson, you're going to bring in somebody young. Like, I don't even know what the trade looks like, but Bowen Byram should be a guy who's on the radar. Like, I like Bowen Byram.
Sure.
I don't know
That's
why
the age range they should hunt for sure. Yeah. And
yeah.
They will. Like the Lindholm deal is the template. You got a first, you got some prospects and picks, and you got a roster player that maybe you can flip or keep if it pans out. And Kuzmenko did both here. He was unreal after the trade that year, dog shirt until they traded him, and then great again in LA. That's got to be where you start, is you say, okay, the minimum here is a first to prospect, a roster player, and let the bidding war begin. Keep adding better roster players and more picks if you want them.
Yeah.
And we talked about it earlier this week, James. I'm curious your thoughts. What we're hearing from the insiders like Pierre LeBrun is they've exchanged their numbers. Here's our ballpark, and it's like, ooh, that's tens of millions apart on a 7-8 year kind of a term. So we're going to make a trade You've made it clear that you're probably ready to move on. When do you want this deal done? Because a lot of times it'll be, oh, hey, we're fine bringing him into the season. He's got a contract. He's a signed player. I feel like this is a situation where I'm not doing that if I'm Craig Conroy, but what are your thoughts on that?
The only reason I think you could probably have potentially a peak return right now is because I think the UFA class is weaker. So you're looking to a lot of managers, and in people I talk to are saying you might see a more proactive trade market than you do UFA. You're not spending, like, managers aren't just going to spend money for the sake of, hey, we got cap space, so we better do this. Because why would you waste money? And that's the wrong term. Why would you spend money on a player that's just okay for your program? Instead of if you covet somebody, go get them. Instead of going, hey, you know what? We need a second line center. P.S. Suter's out there. He's really a 3, but we're going to force feed him in 2 and overpay him in UFC or as a UFA. It doesn't make sense. So what I'm hearing, again, I'm sure you guys hear the same thing, and we see it on, X and all of that, is managers, like, there's a lot of chatter going on. Now, I say it every year. Maybe I'm hoping it's just wishful thinking. I feel like all hell's going to break loose here. And in a good way, where it's like we're going to see a lot of musical chairs. We're going to see a lot of teams. And I'm going to pose this to you three, though. Is there one team that is waving the white flag going, we're rebuilding? Like
Pittsburgh.
Chicago.
Okay, exactly. Pittsburgh. And who?
Was Chicago still part of that?
Oh, yeah.
Chicago is, okay, Chicago, yes, has bottomed out, but they're trying to get better. So
Yeah, they're not coming down. They're starting
They're starting to build.
You're right. There's one team that I think has probably been given the green light to start to move some players out. It seems like Pittsburgh is the team. But you got Sidney Crosby there. And what does Sid want to do? You got Gino and Letang and Carlson and term and no move clauses and all that clauses. So that you're going to have to be creative. But that's a team that I would circle and go, like, if I'm, Edmonton asked me, like, who would you want? Well, Brian Rust. Like, you look at a guy that maybe you could play with Draisaitl. So I look at, I guess the reason why I bring them into the mix is all these teams are probably selling to their owners like, we're going to get better. So where are these players coming from? Like, where's the improvement? If it is, quote unquote, a little bit of a weaker UFA class.
Yeah. How do you steal from the talent pool that's out there? There's only a certain amount of talent.
So is there a team that goes, we don't think we're going to have it this year, so we'll wait another year? Like, I'll give it. I think Montreal could be a very interesting case study because what they need is experience, internal growth from some of those young players. They made the playoffs last year. And they're a good team, and that Hudson's a star, I think, and that Demidov has a chance to be really good. Slavkovsky's starting to use his size. We saw Suzuki and Caulfield turn a corner. But they're still young. So do they have the luxury of waiting another year and maybe plucking some players from teams that either get desperate or that need to move money or need to, if they move Carey Price's contract somehow, they'll have a ton more flexibility as well. So, like, that's an interesting team that I look at because I think Montreal's a really up and coming team. But do they believe they're a cup contender next year, or they did believe that, hey, we made the playoffs, our next goal is to try and win a round or two, like to get to that next level internally? So are you looking at the Pittsburghs and going, can we add? Or are you looking at a team that is pressed up against the cap and go, okay, well, I'll take that contract, but I want that 22-year-old that is playing in your minor league team that we think is going to be a really good player, or maybe a live player at 27, 28. So there's only a few teams around the league that kind of might have that mentality. Everybody else is either selling to their manager or their owner, we're going to be better this year. Like, what's Nashville doing? Didn't I read that Roman Yossi's had some sort of a rare condition, right?
Yes.
Does that mean he's not playing? Does he not, it's concerning, right? After Barry Trotz he swung for the fences last year. Is he going to double down, or is he going to try and move some assets out? Right? Like,
what you're describing is the perfect market to sell an asset in.
Exactly.
Everyone wants to be a buyer minus a few very small examples. And that, to me, screams trade Andersson before the calendar turns to August.
That was my long-winded answer to Craig Conroy is sitting with some pretty impressive chips in his, or cards in his hand. Because, yes, Nazem Kadri, term on his deal. Pretty coveted guy, though. Like, I think there's a lot of teams that would be looking at him.
If you'll do the cap space thing.
Totally. Eat half. Let's go.
Right. So that's my point is like I think Calgary could be sitting there looking pretty good. If Connie wants to be patient, if Connie wants to ask for a king's ransom for some of the players on his roster, and then we've got internal growth for some of the guys that you just laid out, the Zaris, Sharangovich, and is there a defenseman that you feel like is
Breck is that kid?
Breck will make the team this year.
He's gonna.
Yeah. So, and what about that mutant right shot there, Klapka?
He'll be. Yeah, they just signed him.
He's 2 years at 1.25 forward.
I saw that, but I like him. I like him. Like I think
the right winger.
I think he's got a chance to push up to a top 6 role if he wants to get a little like consistently meaner. He's a good skater, a big guy. Like so, I think Calgary could be in a very unique position at the draft here when teams are very desperate to build their team. I don't think you'll see a lot of teams. They might be forced by this to start the season with maybe not the end product they want. Going, okay, we're gonna keep our cap space and see who by Thanksgiving, U.S. Thanksgiving, is going to drop out and be sellers. So you're going to start the season with a team that maybe you feel is 80% complete, and then you go, yeah, let's see if this guy and this guy can play, and then you go, oh, that can't play, but we're going to use our $8 million in cap space to go get player X from that team it's not going to make the playoffs.
Oh, okay, and that's probably every summer. That's similar, right? With different UFAs and different RFAs, that could all be different to a certain extent.
Right.
What are the Flames? Like it all goes back to, for me, what are the Flames? I know what my opinion is.
Okay, so my thought process, the Flames are a lot like the Montreal Canadiens then you can be patient and you can look at internal growth, but you know Montreal has veteran guys on their roster as well. I don't know how coveted the Gallaghers are and the Josh Andersons are and guys like that, but that we were just talking about the Kadris, Colemans, Backlunds, guys like that are older, still a little bit of term left. Montreal made the playoffs. They were kind of the same when you look at it, the points and all of that, like they were right there. It just they were in a different conference. I think Calgary has the luxury of some time here to just let these guys play and let the offers come in, and you can deal with it gets back to the first conversation. You got to deal with the Rasmus Andersson situation. That's your biggest chip.
Yeah, I agree. And on the flip side, we hear it all the time, especially, and it's like you say, this is every year. There's a player who's got 1 year left and we're just going to be traded.
Yeah.
If I'm another GM and I'm looking to buy, I may as well get 82 games of this player rather than 20 or
Cap
25.
Especially,
and then in addition to that, it's, well, do you have a wife? Yeah. You got a kid? Oh, so you're going to leave them behind mid-year. And you know what? It took about 8, 10, 12 games and he finally started. Fuck that. Get your wife, get your kid, move down here. Let's get you set up. What can we do to make you comfortable? Come to camp, be healthy. We control all of that, and let's start the year. Sometimes they work out, the deadline deals, but in this, I just think for the player, the buying team, and for the Flames, it just makes so much sense to get it done.
What you just
sooner
said
than later
only increases the chances of that player extending. He's got 1 year left. You bring a guy in for a year, he gets to know the community.
Yeah.
Like Mikko Rantanen was asked to make a decision on Carolina. He might have spent less than 20 days there because he was at 4 Nations. They were on the road a ton. Like, if he has a full year there,
you could be totally sold that you're not staying. But yeah, it gives
a lot
you
of these
more
markets are nice. You just have to figure them out.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. The longer they stay, the longer they get to know the city, they decide if they want to make that their long-term home or they're ready to move on. Like it happens. And like we've talked about a couple of weeks ago, the players are packages now. It's the wife, the parents, they all have a say in it, where I felt like maybe I was wrong just because I was single most of my career. I felt like in my generation, Rhett, our generation, that didn't factor in as much. I think people were just like, we're going because we got to play here. We're going there. Like it just, nowadays players are more choosing their destination.
This meant you had to keep her because she wasn't complaining that you were gone.
Well, maybe. Yeah. It's just different, put it that way. But I think you look at it. My question now is, habitually, do you get more at the deadline or do you get more at the draft? Like that's the, I don't know. Do we know what the Flames were offered for Jacob Markstrom at the deadline as opposed to what they got for him?
Exactly.
And the market's different every year. Last year, guys got hauls at the deadline. And of course, the year the Flames had all those sales 2 years ago, it was like, the returns are a little like this. So you don't know. And if you're Connie, you forget the market, set the price. What is fair and what do you think you can get? If someone hits that, pull the trigger.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Because and that's what I was getting at, where it's like, he wants this much money. Yeah, you don't want to pay him. But if you're not getting what you need in a trade, pay him. Who cares?
Well, I think it comes down again. Rasmus controls his own destiny here. So he decides if he wants to stay or move. But if he indicates that he's not going to sign a long-term deal, he opens the door to Connie to go find me that move, and get what you need out of it. And so then that's the case where Connie sets his price. And if he gets it at the draft, or he gets it tomorrow, or he gets it, July 3rd, then so be it. The one thing that I don't think we can deny is you could argue Connie might have the number one player, that chip in the league, really. I don't know who else, whose teams is available, unless, Dubas sends out a note saying Sydney has decided that he's going to, accept a trade. It'll probably be to like one or two places. So it's not even a marketplace. It's just the get the deal done with that team type of thing. Hey, I'm going to go play with McKinnon. Okay, get that deal done. What does that look like? Yeah. I want to go to Montreal. That was my favorite team growing up. Okay, what does that look like? There's no, hey, let's see what San Jose is going to offer type of thing. Like it just, so I think I shot down my own argument. I still think that Rasmus might be the biggest trade chip if they decide to trade him.
He's the guy that there's lots of young guys that might be available. Like we hear Peterka, we hear Byron.
That one's an interesting one.
Jordan Kyrou's name just popped up in the last 24 hours from Frank. But like those guys often get talked about and they just stay where they are because they're in their young 20s. And it's like, we can't find an equal value. I think it's easy to find a market. Guys like Rasmus get traded every year. They have 1 year left. They're veteran guys. You know what they are in this league. It's not hard to figure out what you have to pay to get them.
What is JJ Peterka?
He's not a driver.
He's 23. He's a left winger that's flirted with 30 goals back-to-back years, riding unsustainable shooting percentages.
So there you go. So, I mean.
On a bad team.
On a bad team. But would he be a good support player, a top six winger?
Yeah,
played with a skilled centerman.
Yeah, but what does Buffalo want? Like that they apparently are hard to deal with because like they don't even know what they want. Apparently,
yeah,
like, they don't need more first rounders. They've had 1 billion of them in the last 15 years.
They don't know what the fuck they're doing. Do you understand that?
Right?
Might be the best sound clip of the year.
It's an early favorite.
Yeah.
It really is. You're right, but there should be like is there going to be an offer sheet? Is there going to be it's a copycat league. I just don't see an offer sheet. Like people are like, oh, is Nye's going to get offer sheeted here in Toronto? Well, you got to sign the offer sheet, but maybe it's outrageous that somebody's going to try and jam him up. I don't know.
You have to get over 9.2 to make it even challenging. And that's a big swing to take on a guy that's looked really good playing next to one of the top centers on earth.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm just saying, like, is there going to be one? I don't know.
It goes back to what you started with. There's a talent pool out there, and who's going to be able to pull or take a swing and get, like, even if you, that's my opinion of Peterka. I'm not running a hockey team. I'm not doing advanced stats on Peterka. I'm doing general viewings of them and some casual conversations with people I know.
Yeah. But I mean, you're not, I wouldn't disagree. I did a bunch of Buffalo games this year. I watched him live, like talented guy. I think Buffalo, like I've said and maintained, they got a bunch of good players. They just don't, I don't know if they put it together as a team. Like I would be calling Buffalo on Tuck.
I'd be calling Buffalo on Tage Thompson.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Tage is locked in cheap, but yes.
Yeah.
You never know what you're going to hear.
If there's a team to screw it up, it'd be Buffalo.
Well, Tage Thompson isn't leading, but hasn't taken over the leadership role that I think the Sabres wanted him to take and to lead him into a playoff spot. So, again, this is BS talk because I have no clue. I would be phoning about Tage Thompson. What?
Sure.
And they might say something, and you're like, no.
There was a time 2 years ago, I watched them live, and I was like, these two are going to terrorize this league.
Yeah.
That Thompson and Tuck. Big, skate, shoot, hit. Don't have to fight.
On paper, they're good enough. Like, I'm sorry. Like, what are you doing with your coaches?
Their
what are you doing with your
but
coaches?
their D core doesn't play.
Then get a better D coach. Like, bring in Sylvain Lefebvre, pay him double what Florida's paying.
You got two
You
number
really wanna
one
win.
picks back there.
Yeah. And I think Darlene's doing a fine job. I think he's competitive enough. I know you just said you watched Buffalo a lot this year. That power doesn't stand out the way you're hoping he would. And I still think he's young and he can come along, but
if I had to use one word with power, I think he's meek.
yeah.
Very, like he's light.
Yeah,
Very thin and very meek. Now, you could have a good summer, and all of a sudden you got 15 more pounds of confidence and 15 more pounds of, we'll call it man strength, and all of a sudden, like the meekness comes out of the guy. And
Aaron Ekblad, I always think about that. It's like, what was Aaron Ekblad 8 years ago? I don't know. I think it was kind of like, is he any good? I think he's good, but is he?
I remember having that conversation with Chris Pronger when Prongs was with Florida as an AGM or whatever he was, special advisor. And he said Ekblad had a crossroads. Like he was a good player, but needed to decide how he wanted to play, how consistent he wanted to be in his preparation, his work ethic, all of that type of stuff. A lot of these guys coming out of junior, they're the top guys, and they've always just been the top guys. I look at Darnell Nurse. I think he's the same thing. He was just a talented, good skating, 6'4", 225-pound defenseman. But the details of the game haven't, they're not there. And I look at Ekblad as a great example. Power could probably develop into something like that. And Buffalo has time, I guess. It's been 14 years.
Well, how much time do they have? Because
I don't know.
I should have moved Cousins. What's the guy they got in return? And then, of course, he got hurt. They made
Norris.
too many odd moves. I don't know. Paterka now, another high pick.
Well, I just, at some point, don't you think it's like, okay, like the pieces should all come together? You got, Tage Thompson has if you look at that NHL edge, like, doesn't he have the most amount of shots that are over 100 miles an hour? It's like
he hammers the puck.
109 miles an hour.
Just an abundance of above average talent.
When you have a top 10 pick for a decade plus, you should be better than you. Yeah. And we keep waiting for it.
We do need to get you out of here, I assume.
Okay.
I'm going to throw the Hall of Fame yesterday. 4 names. Quick thoughts, or what comes to mind when you hear Alexander McGillney?
Okay, so we always focus on who didn't make it in, and obviously a goalie hugger, I get pissed off. Like Carey Price should have been there every day of the week for me. I'm sorry, but I'm more mad at the format of this Hall of Fame. I'm an NHL voter. My votes are transparent.
Mm-hmm.
The Professional Writers Association. If I voted for somebody for Selke, it's there. Okay. We ask all the time. We have friend Iggy's on the Hall of Fame selection committee. They're not allowed to talk about it.
Yeah.
It's like the Kennedy files or the 9/11 files. We can't talk about this stuff, right?
It's ridiculous.
But it's weird because you try and guess the criteria. My only complaint with all of this is if you're a Hall of Famer, you should go in. But I don't like the fact that it's like, oh, well, only 4 males can go in here and 2 females. Because if Alex McGillney was a Hall of Famer 8 years ago, he didn't get better.
That's true.
It just, he They wedged him in on a year that this is his year. Rogie Vachon, people had to Google who Rogie Vachon was. It was 20 years.
At least 20.
At least 20, maybe 40, I think it was, whatever it was. Rogie Vachon, if you deemed he was a Hall of Famer, you put him in. So my point is Alex Mogilny, really good player and Hall of Famer, but so is Carey Price. So I would have been fine with 5 being announced yesterday and going, these are the 5 Hall of Famers because they're eligible, and that's it. That's where I struggle with. It's the format, because I don't want to sit here and kick Joe Thornton or Alex Mogilny in the junk going, well, that guy didn't win. That guy didn't, this guy did more. This guy did. Like, you should be celebrating them. And I felt myself being petty yesterday instead of going, Alex Mogilny, you deserve, happy for you. I'm going, how the hell is Carey Price not make it in?
There's no transparency. It's a huge problem.
That's the thing I struggle with, guys, because I think that's where it's a made up format. This isn't like, I'm sorry, things can evolve and change just like the world has done. So why can't they change that?
If one year you have 10 guys get in and one year you have 1.
Right.
Okay.
You know what the comment to us was? And Bob McKenzie, we had him on the show yesterday, he was tongue in cheek, but he's like, well, you don't want James Duthie to have, the show's only a certain length and you can't have, you can't have too many people because their speeches will roll over. I'm like, then cut the speeches. Like, just, in the end, have whoever you believe is a Hall of Famer go in. Because right now, I think a guy like Chris Osgood, over time, his stats will look like Hall of Fame stats. But there's no context. It was like, there's 7 Hall of Famers played on Detroit in front of him and, all of that type of stuff. I look at Chris Osgood, multiple cups, wins, some of the things that we think the criteria is. I just know, for example, Carey Price was the best at his position for many years, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. I can't remember saying that about Alex Mogilny. Like, I think he was a great player, but I never was like, he's the number 1 player.
There should be criteria to it.
I just don't know what the criteria is. I think I told you guys.
Play for the Leafs. Mogilny did.
Oh.
Yeah.
Took a while.
Yeah.
Rob Volman, I don't know if you guys know, Calgary guy, so analytics guy. He has a great formula in one of his books, and it's what he believes, kind of from an analytics standpoint, what a guy is a Hall of Famer of. And he's pretty bang on. It was funny. He said, like, the guys who had like 99 out of 100 points were like, it was Roenick, it was Kachuk, and it's the guys who are on the cusp, but he said, yeah, obviously, Scott Niedermayer and you name it, Bobby Orr, those guys. But he said, like, the borderline ones, there's a formula. And he had it. They were the captain of a team. Did they win a major award? Did they do, like, he has this formula, and he was pretty bang on in his assessment. And that's why, it's all subject to argument outside, because we're all going, what the hell are you talking about in that room there?
And the other thing is Bernie Federico's in there and Rogie Vachon get in after like 40 years. And you're like, there's a lot of guys better than those guys that aren't going to get in. What are you doing?
Anyway, we'll move on because you got to go. But before because you talked to, go ahead.
What do you want for your birthday?
I don't accept birthday presents.
You don't celebrate
Because we were talking yesterday that we should get Jamie something nice.
They were going to
put so much for us.
I don't even know what my birthday is.
I don't. So that wasn't the point. But because you brought birthdays up, we want to send you something like a big prime rib or like a T-bone steak. Like, what could the noodler use?
Caesar's cheese toast.
Oh, we're netting this out.
I will be there though, gentlemen. I will be in Calgary for some business.
No.
Yes.
What is it, July 5th?
Oh, Stampede Stunner.
Yeah, there's that thing going on.
This is my ass.
I'll be there for a couple days.
And just quickly before you talk about you're an entrepreneur and you're into data and you're well read. You're a smart guy. Do you also are you looking for deals? Are you like a bargain hunter? Are you thrifty that way?
I try to. I mean, it depends on what we're talking about. Like,
okay, well, you're coming to Calgary, and I saw this on Facebook Marketplace. I'm not sure. I could maybe.
Oh,
$20.
you know I make those, right?
Your
Yeah,
mom does.
we
You told
saw
us.
No, but I made a batch the other day, and the kids were so excited about it because I followed the
Yeah.
instructions to a T.
Well, I don't want to say who it was, but there was somebody on our show 2 weeks ago, and he said you brought some to work, and it looked more like shit than it did like
Oh.
desserts.
Animal truffles. Yeah.
That really hurts my heart. I think
It's been hot out there. They melted.
Edgar enjoyed it. I warmed him up in my pocket and handed.
Who's that?
Was it Darren Drager that I gave him to?
Oh, well, we didn't met.
What
I
are you
mean,
talking about? We're
Sounds like
not
the drinks.
naming names or whatever.
Listen, they were very good, and you know what? He should be lucky that I made them for the whole crew.
okay, well, you know what? We'll spot you. We'll spot the 20. If you want me to go, we can probably
We'll pick
grab
some
those
up for you. July 5th, we'll have them
Nothing
ready.
goes good at Stampede like hot weather, cold beer, and melted marshmallow squares.
Or the cheese toast from Caesars.
Oh, yeah.
That's true.
Birthday in 5 days, by the way.
Well, who is this?
Yours.
No,
June
that's
30th? Am I reading this wrong?
I think that's a misprint on Wikipedia.
Yeah, don't even.
James Joseph on somebody put my name as James Joseph McLennan on Wikipedia. My nickname or my middle name is not Joseph.
JJ. Stuff the scent here.
Oh, JJ.
It's just weird. Like Wikipedia, you can just write whatever you want.
Whatever you want.
Jean-Jacques,
And we
Frankie,
should
JJ.
actually
My
talk about this.
birthday is June 30th, 1971.
We should start screwing with people, the two of us on Wikipedia, just random tidbits of.
Exactly.
He's the first
My
man in
middle
Saskatchewan in space.
Yes, you could say that. You're like Dr. Evil. You invented the question mark. You just right? Like that's what you could do. That's what you could add to your Wikipedia page. Just random things, that you.
Thank you, McLennan. Get out of here.
God love you.
See you soon.
Yeah.
Hey, buddies. Thanks for watching. We appreciate it. Also, if you could throw in a like and subscribe, it does help us out with what it is we are doing. And check out more at flamesnation.ca.